Hello and welcome to Undead Gaming News, your one-stop shop for all things gaming. I'm your host Zombie, and first up this week, reports have begun circulating of an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake via two unnamed sources who claim that Ubisoft's Singapore studio is leading development on the remake, but it's currently in the very earliest stages and won't be released for several years yet. Ubisoft Singapore has been at the forefront of iterating on the ocean tech that features in recent Assassin's Creed games and also Ubisoft's long-awaited Skull and Bones. And it's the status of Skull and Bones that makes this report, if true, a bit strange, because it was first planned as an expansion to Black Flag, which was released in 2013. Skull and Bones then got reimagined as an MMO, and then again as an action-adventure which can be played solo or in co-op. It's been delayed 6 times, but will have a closed beta in August. But since Skull and Bones has no direct affiliation to Black Flag anymore, it just means that Ubisoft's Singapore studio is working on both projects simultaneously. But in other news, Ark Survival Ascend, which is a remaster of Ark Survival Evolved in Unreal Engine 5, was first teased as if it was going to be a free upgrade, and then it was officially announced that it's going to be part of a $50 bundle that included a pre-order for Ark 2. That was of course met with backlash from fans, causing Studio Wildcard to pivot and then announce that rather than packaging the remaster with a pre-order for the sequel, it would instead come with several DLC upgrades, which it would receive more of after launch as free updates. Also, it would now cost $10 more. Studio Wildcard was aiming to release the remaster in late August, which it's now pushed back to October. As the studio's latest newsletter explains, we found it challenging working with Unreal Engine 5.2, but at the same time, it's incredibly exciting. We're discovering new ways each day to push the technology to the next level, combined with the work needed to support a fully cross-platform, moddable game ecosystem on consoles and PC. It's clear that we'll need a bit more time. While it will still launch with the island expansion included, Scorched Earth has been moved to a post-launch update, and the extra DLC maps have been pushed back as well. Scorched Earth will be coming to Ark Survival Ascend in December of this year. Ragnarok and Aberration will follow in Q1 of 2024, and the rest of the maps beyond then. And once again, the price is changing. Ark Survival Ascend will now cost $40 with a launch discount, and then it will be $45 for the rest of its early access period, which is estimated to last until late 2024. Given the delay, Studio Wildcard's planned shutdown of the original version's official servers on August the 31st has also been pushed back. They'll now be online until September the 30th, assuming nothing else changes between now and then. But in other news, following reports of games made with AI art being banned from Steam, Valve has revealed a bit of its thought process in regard to games being shipped with AI-generated content on its digital storefront. Valve responded to questions about these reports, which were gathered from stories from various devs who were seeing their AI-infused games blocked from Steam for reasons such as Valve not being able to ship games which the developer does not have the necessary rights, or for utilising AI tech. We of course talked about one of those reports last week, but Valve confirmed it is still learning about the ever-quickly evolving AI, and furthermore, it doesn't want to discourage devs from submitting games with AI-generated content for Steam. It just wants to make sure that developers have the proper rights for all the assets that are being used in them, stating, "We are continuing to learn about AI, the ways it can be used in game development, and how to factor it into our process for reviewing games, submitted for distribution on Steam. Our priority, as always, is to try to ship as many of the titles we receive as we can. The introduction of AI can sometimes make it harder to show a developer has sufficient rights in using AI to create assets, including images, text, and music. In particular, there is some legal uncertainty relating to data used to train AI models. It's the developer's responsibility to make sure they have the appropriate rights to ship the game. We know it is a constantly evolving tech, and our goal is not to discourage the use of it on Steam. Instead, we're working through how to integrate it into our already existing review policies. Stated plainly, our review process is a reflection of current copyright law and policies, not an added layer of our opinion. As these laws and policies evolve over time, so will our process. We welcome and encourage innovation, and AI technology is bound to create new and exciting experiences in gaming. While developers can use these AI technologies in their work with appropriate commercial licenses, they cannot infringe on existing copyrights. While app submission credits are usually non-refundable, we're more than happy to offer them in cases as we continue to work on our review process, So to summarise, only use AI tech for your game if you have the rights to the dataset the AI used, and can prove that you have those rights. Otherwise it's best to avoid using AI until Valve has figured out how to implement it within their policies. Also in the news is Michail Katkoff, who is the managing director of Savage Game Studios, has now announced that he's leaving the company less than a year after it was acquired by Sony. In an update on his LinkedIn, he said, "I'd like to believe I've done my fair part in taking the company from 0 to 1. Now I'm eager to watch from the side as Najim and Mike take it from 1 to 100. In the same breath, I wish nothing but the best for Olivier Countermarche and Chris Davis, who are leading PlayStation's charge onto mobile. Can't wait to play all the amazing games from all the fantastic developers." Confirmation of Katkoff's exit comes shortly after news of a leadership change at PlayStation Mobile, where we saw Nicola Sebastiani leave the company to pursue a new undisclosed opportunity, and was quickly replaced by the co-heads Olivier Countermarche and Chris Davis. However, over on Capcom's side of things, they've said they're considering how to approach making new Mega Man games in the future. While a number of retro compilations of older Mega Man titles have been released in recent years, entirely new entries in the series are few and far between. The releases of Mega Man 9 in 2008, Mega Man 10 in 2010, and Mega Man 11 in 2018 have marked the only major Mega Man games in the past 15 years. During a Q&A session following its latest annual meeting of shareholders, one shareholder pointed out that the latest retro compilation, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, has sold more than 1 million copies since it was released in April. Suggesting that this may have contributed to user expansion, the shareholder asked what Capcom's plans were for the Mega Man series going forwards. Capcom replied, "Including Mega Man 11, the latest entry in the franchise, Mega Man is one of Capcom's historic IPs and is loved by fans, and as such we want to take care in how we develop the series. We are considering how to approach the production of new entries in the series, which requires numerous factors, including the development of a solid concept, ideas, gameplay, etc." When asked specifically about more ports of retro compilations, Capcom added, "We are considering our approach to ports of past entries titles, which includes addressing the technical issues. According to Capcom's own internal data, the Mega Man series has sold more than 38 million units over its 36-year history, and this makes it one of the company's best-selling series, behind Street Fighter with 49 million units, Monster Hunter with 92 million units, and Resident Evil with 142 million units. As for our final story this week though, a 272-page PDF of classified Sega of America documents from the mid-90s has been released on the Sega Retro Wiki, which is a community-run database full of info that aims to cover everything possible about Sega from the 1940s to today. One interesting thing within the PDF is an email sent from Tom Kalinske, former CEO of Sega America, on the subject of the Sega Saturn console. The Saturn was a flop in the US, releasing just before the Nintendo 64 a year later, and coming with a host of troubles otherwise. The retail margin was only 6%, meaning that retailers made $15 per Saturn sold, and in the email itself, Kalinske wrote, "We are killing Sony in every store in Japan. Saturn hardware is sold out, there are stacks of PlayStation." The retailers commented that they can't compare the true sales rate because Saturn sells out before they can measure accurately. "I wish I could get all of our staff, salespeople, retailers, analysts, media, etc. to see and understand what's happening in Japan. They would then understand why we will win here in the US, eventually." But of course they did not win in the US eventually. In fact, Kalinske would go on to leave the company later in that year that the email was sent. That email was sent on March the 28th, and he tendered his resignation on July the 15th, less than 4 months later. In an interview last year, he spoke about his departure, where he said he'd been so successful, so I didn't understand why, all of a sudden, decisions were being forced on me from Japan. I was forced to introduce the Saturn. We didn't have enough hardware, we didn't have enough software, and then, to make matters worse, we were forced to introduce it 5 months earlier than we wanted. Well, we didn't want to introduce it anyway. He then goes on to mention how Hayao Nakayama, president and CEO of Sega Enterprises at the time, would use Kalinske's success in the US to berate his staff in Japan, saying, and he would beat the hell out of all of the managers and directors and say things like, "Why can't you guys get the revenue up like Tom in the United States?" After a while, you start to hate this guy, Tom, over in the United States. The PDF solidifies this historical friction between the two sides of Sega. Kalinske was, according to his own account, forced into a situation where he needed to introduce a product before he was ready. The email itself serves as a glimpse into his frustration, just a few months before his resignation. The rest of the PDF contains product planning reports, storyboards and advertisements, business strategies and even brand reviews. There's also revelations about the Sega Saturn versions of Shenmue, Jurassic Park and Vector Man that never came to fruition. It's 272 pages filled with Sega's history. If that's something you're interested in, you can take a look for yourself. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But that's all we have time for this week. If you have any thoughts on anything discussed this week, please leave in the comment section below as always, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.